Hello, my name is Joshua Keith, and this is theburningcoal.com, a website dedicated to God's glory, His grace, and our response to it. Today we're going to do a Monday motivation on fearing God. One of the most important passages I feel that talks about fearing God comes from Proverbs Chapter 1, verse 7. And really, this verse is the theme for the book of Proverbs. It helps us when we're trying to gain wisdom, when we're trying to figure out how to live. We need to understand what type of attitude we should be having towards God. And so here's what it says in Proverbs 1:7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. So we see here that the fear of the Lord is really needed to be in place before we make any type of decision in our lives. If we're wanting to know what the right thing to do is, if we want to be instructed, if we want to have wisdom, we need to go to the foot of the Lord, and we need to understand our place. And so when we keep in mind the fear of the Lord, there's a few things that we should be thinking about. First of all is understanding God's power. And a lot of times when we think about the idea of fear, we think of possibly being terrified. And while I don't think that that's really what the author has in mind here, it is important to know how powerful God is. When we look at the earth that we live on, when we look at how intricately it's designed, when we look at outer space and we see all the stars and the planets in the sky, and we realize that God spoke all of that into existence, who are we to try to go against that God? Who are we to try to go against His power? But even more than fearing His power, we should have a proper respect for who God is. And I really think this is what is being hinted at here in Proverbs 1:7, where we understand God's place in the order of things. God is not just powerful in the sake of being powerful, but God is also the creator of it all. He is the creator of us. He knows us better than we know ourselves. Sometimes we don't like to think that way. Sometimes we don't like to have God in that position of power, in that position of knowing all of these things. And so we try to rely on ourselves. We think that we know what's best, that we know more than the creator of the universe about what He created. But that's foolishness. Instead, we need to know that God is the one who created all things. He is the one who put it all together, so He knows how it works. And so because of that, we should trust God's wisdom. Notice that he's using the idea of parallelism here. He talks about the fear of God is the beginning of knowledge. But then he talks about fools, that fools don't want anything to do with instruction or wisdom. What is he getting at there? He's saying that fools have no fear of God. And so they don't want God's wisdom. Even though God knows what He's doing, even though God knows better than we do, we decide to go on our own. And that leads to heartache. That leads to pain, not just for us, but also to the loved ones around us. And so we need to fear God by listening to what it is that He wants us to know. We need to be going to His Word this week. We need to be studying. And when we're trying to make important decisions in our lives, if we're trying to know what is the right thing to do in this scenario, ask God. God is the one with wisdom. He is the one who has created all things. He is the one with the power. And so anytime you're trying to learn about anything, anytime you're trying to grow in anything, anytime you're trying to guide your steps, go back to the beginning. Go back to God's Word. And let your fear and your understanding of who God is guide each and every one of your steps. I hope this lesson blesses you in your walk in His kingdom.